County Kildare. 4 minutes, everybody.
Thanks very much, Controller, and I thank you very much for selecting this topic here this afternoon. I must say I've had it on for a good few weeks and I really appreciate it eventually, and sorry, disappointed that the Senior Minister isn't here, but I do appreciate the fact that the Junior Minister from Education, so you have some sort of understanding of what I'm trying to say. And I must say from the very start that all the deputies within the constituency of Kildare North are fully supportive of the proposals that have been put forward by the Maynooth Schools Group, and we only recently met them last night. So what I'm saying to you now is fairly fresh in the thing. My own personal interest is that I was a former teacher in Maynooth Post-Primary School. I was lucky enough to be there for a year, so I could see at first hand the benefit of a one school for one town philosophy. And to quote Dr. Jerry Jeffers in his interim report for County Kildare VEC, Maynooth has been an exemplar of inclusive co-educational, multi-denominational schooling. This, I believe, is due to the exclusive achievement of having one school for all pupils, which so many towns in Ireland would strive to reach. However, what the Department and the Kildare Wicklow ETB has proposed to do is to strip away all that Maynooth has achieved and create a divided community there. The community of Maynooth is central to this debate. The community was led to believe that the existing policy of one school for one town would be maintained, and that the new campus would house all the students attending Maynooth Post-Primary. The news that two separate schools were to be established has been met with dismay, anger and concern about the future of the town. Again, to quote Dr. Jeffers' report, the strongest single theme emancipating from the public conversations with parents, particularly in Maynooth itself, centred on the idea of the town as a unified community. In the words of a number of contributors, an extended village, where the single second-level school, Maynooth Post-Primary, acts as a powerful integrating force. It is inevitable that two schools will create duplication and inter-community rivalry. The solutions that are being put forward by the Maynooth schools groups include amalgamation of the two schools is the key. One school board which will decide the overall configuration of the facilities, and an overall principal for the Maynooth post-primary schools, who delegates day-to-day management of its constituents' parks to individual deputy principals. This is a reasonable attitude from the community. The amalgamation can be on a permanent basis or on a temporary pilot basis, to be reviewed after 5 or 6 years, or when the new school buildings are built. There are real concerns from the parents there in Maynooth. It's only in essence is there a Maynooth Community College. There is no building, no principal, no staff. How can 6th class children prepare for entering a second-level school in 8 months' time when they have no idea where they will be, who their teachers will be, and who their classmates will be? Particularly when prospective pupils and parents of Maynooth post-primaries are invited to attend an information meeting at the end of this month to meet teachers and hear about their subject choices. And this brings me to the enrolment policy of Maynooth post-primary, which is extremely worrying for many parents and pupils, particularly those who have children currently attending the school and studying through the Irish stream. I cannot understand how this is allowed to happen, and the language medium through which you learn should not be a bearing on where your younger siblings should attend school. If parents had been aware of this when they first opted for the Irish stream, I'm sure they would have thought twice about sending them there. To conclude, all the community of Maynooth is asking for is that their views to be understood and heard. At the moment, they believe they are completely excluded from the process because their views, which they thought were being taken on board, were ignored. You are an inclusive minister who is actively engaging with parents on a number of issues which affect their children, most particularly that of patronage. I am asking you, on behalf of a unified community of Maynooth, to listen to their one voice for one school, for one town, and not divide them. Thank you.
Minister.
Garmagad, and I want to thank the Deputy for giving me an opportunity to provide to the House an update on this issue. And I understand that Minister Quinn has met on a number of occasions with parents' representatives and also with Deputies Stagg and Durkin on this issue, and I'm glad to be able to provide an update as a result of those ongoing discussions and meetings. The Department's plan for Maynooth at post-primary level is that there will be 2 separate, fully vertical post-primary schools on one campus, namely a new replacement building for the existing Maynooth post-primary school and a new school, the Maynooth Community College, which is being established in 2014. And representatives of the parents' associations from Maynooth initially put forward the view that the 2 schools should be configured as a junior school and a senior school rather than 2 separate, fully vertical schools. And that proposal presented difficulties, not least of which is the considerable stress that would be caused for parents and students with the introduction of a 3rd transfer point between primary and 3rd level, and the lack of continuity of teaching for students between the junior and senior cycle. Minister Quinn has communicated this view to local representatives directly, and I understand that a more recent proposal has been put which moves away from that junior-senior configuration, and that's a very, very welcome development in the ongoing discussion. The Minister is more than aware of the desire locally to avoid issues of duplication or intra-community rivalry in the establishment of a 2nd school, and this has resulted in a new proposal from the parents' group to amalgamate the 2 schools either temporarily or permanently. The Minister believes, however, that there are a number of practical operational policy measures that can be taken with the agreement of parents and school leadership to foster a stronger sense of common identity and to benefit from the advantages of shared resources while maintaining 2 separate school entities. My department will now be engaging with the Kildare and Wicklow ETB to consider this, and I expect that they will in turn be engaging further with the school leadership and parents and indeed the community as a whole in this regard. As part of an earlier effort to address this issue, the Wicklow and Kildare Educational Training Board, which will be patron of both schools, has developed a specific management structure for the new educational campus. First of all, each school will have, as usual, a board of management that will carry out the normal functions of such boards, including those relating to the delivery of a quality education for students. And in addition to those 2 separate boards of management, there will be a single governing authority established to guarantee parents and students a fair and equitable enrolment policy for both schools and to ensure that the overall management of this community education campus will be as cohesive and as effective as possible. The governing authority will comprise of an independent chairperson, the principals of the schools, a teacher and parent guardian nominated by the Board of Management of each school, and also members of the ETB, and the CEO of the ETB or a nominee will also attend meetings. The Minister is satisfied that the arrangements made by the ETB to date and the further engagement on school operational policies that will now take place will ensure that the educational needs of all students, including those with disability or special educational needs, are identified and provided for in the curricular programmes planned and delivered at the schools, and that a quality teaching and learning environment for all students will result. The Deputy is also well aware that the existing post-primary school in Maynooth is very highly regarded locally. Indeed, if he taught in it himself, he knows that full well. The intention of the ETB is to build on that wonderful tradition within Maynooth of high standards and success, and to provide, as I said earlier on, a new community education campus comprising of 2 fully vertical new schools, and there's significant and very worthwhile thinking behind the establishment of those 2 schools. And I would suggest to the Deputy that this will be a very, very positive outcome for the community as a whole in the future.
Deputy, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Minister, for the reply. It's not really satisfying what the needs of the community are. And I attended a meeting about 1.5 years ago, and it was quite clear from the community at the time that they wanted a single school. And this idea of what you were talking about now, 2 vertical schools, is not what they want. We talk about an amalgamation of the 2 to be run under one board, one principal, with the one same school uniform. Because Maynooth Post-Primary School is a highly successful and well-run school that has been catering for the united community there for a good number of years. And this is what the community wants. And sometimes it's important for us as politicians to learn and to listen from what the community wants, and trying to impose on the community what other people, and whether it's the Minister or whether it's the Department of Education or it's the Kildare-Wicklow Education Training Board, what they believe is the right thing for the community, sometimes doesn't work. And the one thing we want to happen in this community is to keep it unified. We don't want to have a divided community. We want to have one school for one town. That is a simple philosophy within the town there that has worked for a number of years. And as I said myself, I've worked in the school, I've seen it at first hand, how well it works, how it integrates the community there. And what the department is trying to do at the moment under its current policy is to try to separate the two, separate the town, split the town. Instead of having a well-run, integrated community there, we're going to have a divided community. So, Minister, I would appeal to you. The Maynooth Schools Group have put forward suggestions with regard to amalgamation, and have a look at that and come back with a concrete, positive answer that we can go forward on. I'm standing before an appeals board next week with regard to for parents who cannot attend the Maynooth Post-Primary School, even though their siblings are in it.
Thank you.
Which seems strange to me. So I appeal to you again, Minister, look at the amalgamation process, talk to the Maynooth Schools groups and come forward with a positive suggestion for them. Thank you.
Minister.
Thank you. I can recall many times in this chamber over the last 2.5 years a number of colleagues of ours expressing a wish that we would seek to have our children educated in schools where we have, I suppose, to try and keep the numbers at a reasonable level. And if you would ask any parent whether or not they'd like to well, this is in my own estimation, whether or not they would like their daughter or son to attend a school of 1,000 pupils or a school of 2,000 pupils, I think the resounding response would be they would like to attend the smaller school. In fact, I would attend meetings regularly of parents and indeed school management bodies across the country. And there is an opinion emerging, and certainly it's backed up by research both nationally and internationally, that in terms of school numbers, the very maximum and the optimum figure for school enrolment is around 1,000 pupils. You get significant economies of scale, but at the same time, there is an environment whereby the principal and indeed other members of the management body of the school can retain some sort of knowledge of each individual pupil, of their progress, be it positive or negative, and it certainly enhances the overall efficacy of the school to keep it at that 1,000 pupil limit. And it also, I think, adds significantly to the positive mental health and the positive experience overall of the students attending that school. So that optimum figure of 1,000 pupils hasn't been arrived at in a kind of a casual way. It's certainly been very much thought out by the department and indeed by others in education as well. That's why we want to allow for the development of 2 vertical schools of 1,000 pupils each on that one campus. There is no intention, and there never was any intention, to somehow divide the community or to set one element of the community competing with another. The Minister has established a forum now, and that overall governance structure that I think will work well in the future to enhance and indeed not to detract from that community spirit, but to actually build on that community spirit, where we will now have 2 schools, state-of-the-art modern schools with every possible facility one would require on one community education campus. And the Deputy suggested earlier on that perhaps even the issue, the symbolism of the students all wearing one uniform, I think there's no reason why that can't be discussed. And perhaps if that is the symbolic gesture that's required to sustain that sense of community within Maynooth, I think that certainly can be discussed with the ETB locally and can be progressed as well.
The next matter.